Imagine sucking in a lungful of air and plunging into icy cold dark water. Your first instinct is to swim upwards, back to safety, but instead you go down to the seafloor where the sunlight no longer reaches. And you remain there for up to 2 minutes until you find what you're looking for. These women have been diving for centuries to put food on the table, no matter how cold and treacherous the water is, and even while heavily pregnant. And their bodies have adapted to the harsh conditions in the most unexpected of ways. I'm Maddie Massey, and I talk about weird and wacky science. If you're new here, have a look around and subscribe if you want more. Today we're talking about the Haenyeo, women from the Korean island of Jeju, who have incredible diving abilities. There is a long history of diving on Jeju, with some records going back over 1,000 years. Initially, diving was dominated by men, but in the 17th century, most of these men were conscripted to the Korean army or working on fishing boats. And some sources say that the rulers at the time, the Joseon dynasty, imposed strict taxes in the form of dried abalone on ordinary people. And this abalone could only be obtained by diving, and if it wasn't paid, there would be horrible beatings. And so the women of Jeju stepped up, starting the centuries-old tradition of the Haenyeo. They would dive to collect octopus, seaweed, abalone, and other seafood every day, even in winter when the water temperature would drop to 10 degrees Celsius. And they would only wear thin cotton bathing suits, with the pregnant women wearing suits that were open on the sides to accommodate their bellies, so there was very little insulation from the cold. I've been in 10 degrees water before when I went for a swim in Tasmania, and the whole time I was so overwhelmed and couldn't stop thinking about how freezing cold it was, and I only lasted a few minutes. But the Haenyeo would actually stay in the freezing cold winter water for 30 minutes at a time. How did they not get hypothermia? Scientists have wondered this too. Initially, they hypothesized that the Haenyeo must have had more subcutaneous fat, and this would have helped to insulate them against the cold. But when they tested this, it turned out that the Haenyeo were actually leaner than other Korean women. What was actually happening were two very important processes. Number one, the Haenyeos were really good at producing body heat. During winter, their basal metabolic rate would drastically increase, meaning that they'd be burning more energy to keep themselves warm. Number two, the Haenyeos were really good at retaining the body heat that they produced. They did this by constricting the blood vessels in their fingers and toes and diverting warm blood away from those areas and keeping it at the core. And they also shivered less, which is a really inefficient process that actually releases lots of heat to the environment. It's likely that their bodies were unconsciously adapting over many years of diving. Most Haenyeos would start during childhood and then they'd keep diving into their 70s and 80s. Then things changed. In the 1970s, the Haenyeo switched from the thin cotton swimsuits to thick neoprene wetsuits, and this helped to insulate them better against the cold. And scientists found that within just a few years of switching to wetsuits, the Haenyeos lost their physiological adaptations to the cold. Their basal metabolic rate no longer spiked during winter, and their bodies became less effective at retaining heat. I suppose it's because they didn't really need those adaptations anymore now that they had the wetsuits. Now in the 2020s, the Haenyeo tradition is still alive, but most of the Haenyeos are old and few young women are entering the profession. In future, we don't know what will happen to this tradition or these incredible physiological adaptations.